What's better than cheesecake? A Basque cheesecake. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a mini Basque cheesecake in the air fryer with homemade yogurt cheese. I hadn't even heard of a Basque cheesecake until about a month ago. I saw two videos online, one being by Sam Wiseman and then the other being by Bon Appetit. And I was like, oh my goodness, that looks so awesome. And right at that time, I had just gotten done making a video on how to make homemade yogurt in the Instant Pot, and I had made all this yogurt cheese. So I thought to myself, it'd be great to make this Basque cheesecake with my homemade yogurt cheese. And to top it off, I'm gonna make it in the air fryer. So let's get into making Basque cheesecake in the air fryer with our homemade yogurt cheese. I've laid out everything we're gonna need for our cheesecake. And the first thing is our homemade yogurt cheese. 5 ounces worth. Then we're going to need flour, sugar, heavy whipping cream. Actually, the recipe called for heavy cream, but I could only get heavy whipping cream. Salt, I'm going to use Himalayan sea salt, an egg, and then finally vanilla extract. So now that we've got everything laid out here, let's start mixing everything up. I went ahead and already measured out everything just to save some time. First off, we need 1/3 cup of the heavy cream. We're going to pour that in there. Then we're going to take our egg, put that in as well. Our sugar, we're using 1/4 cup. And then we need 1 tablespoon of flour. And then we need 1/4 cup of salt. And then to finish it up, we need 1/4 teaspoon of our vanilla extract. And now let's stir this up. You can definitely substitute the homemade yogurt for cream cheese. Just make sure that the cream cheese has had time to soften, or else the stirring issue will be way harder. We just want to make sure we get rid of all these clumps. And as you can see, it's so much easier with doing just a mini cheesecake. There's not that much ingredients. You don't need to use a handheld mixer or a KitchenAid to do this. Just straight manual mixing, and we're almost done. This takes less than 10 minutes as far as getting all the ingredients together, putting them in, mixing them up, and then getting it into the air fryer. Now that we've got this pretty well mixed up, we have to do the hardest part. And that is to take parchment paper and line the center part of this springform pan. First off, we've got to butter the inside of the springform pan, and then I've cut out a square piece of parchment paper. Now the thing with the parchment paper is you want thin parchment paper, otherwise it is an absolute bear to get that thing to mold inside here. I've already done it once before and it was a much heavier gauge parchment paper. It was a real frustration. It's still going to be difficult even with this parchment paper, but it's going to be a lot easier than what it was the time before. Now I've put a pat of butter inside our springform pan, and I am just taking this and rubbing it all along the sides, the inside of this springform pan, and the bottom as well. And we'll put that guy right there. Then we take our parchment paper, cram it down in here. Really have to push it in, make sure that it gets tucked into the corners real nice. It's kind of nice with the butter being in there because it helps the parchment paper stick somewhat. And honestly, this really is the hardest part of making this cheesecake. Hopefully for any of you out there, you'll be like, oh, this is super easy. And if it is, good for you. I'm jealous. But for me, it's not. Now we'll take our pat of butter that's left over and we'll brush the inside of our parchment paper as well. So that way it peels off of the cheesecake nice and easy. It's just an extra measure. Now that we've got the parchment paper lined in the center of our springform pan, we're going to take our batter here and we are going to pour it in like so. Get every little bit. We don't want any batter. Now the next step is to put in our air fryer. The first thing I do with my air fryer is I do a pre-warm up. So I'm going to set the temperature to 400 degrees. It's the maximum temperature that my air fryer can be able to reach. So I like to give it just a nice little kickstart as far as warming it up. I don't know if it's actually necessary, but it's the way I'm going to do it. So let's fire up our air fryer. The air fryer's been going for about 5 minutes now, and it's ready for the cheesecake. But I missed the step of cutting the edges of the parchment paper. So let's do that now. We want to trim this down somewhat. We still want to have a little bit of a lip, so that way we can pull the cheesecake out of the spring form when we're done. Not only that, but the lip is actually going to help hold up some tin foil on top so we don't really burn the top of the cheesecake. Because unfortunately, with the air fryer, you have a lot of hot air being blown down. So it's very easy to really burn the top of your cheesecake. So we're going to get a nice crisp layer on top, and then we're going to throw some tin foil on top of that after about 6 to 8 minutes. So let's get it in here. I've got it set for 20 minutes at 400 degrees. We'll check back in about 5 to 6 minutes and see where we're at. Okay, it's been about 8 minutes now, and I want to check on the cheesecake just to see where we are as far as how well done the top is. Ooh, you can see how it's getting a nice little burnt layer on top. And at this point, I'm going to stick a little tint of tin foil on top because I don't want it to go any further than this as far as cooking that top. There we go. Got that in there. And now we will put this back in. And it says it has 11 minutes left on the timer. We'll let it run out and we will check the internal temperature when it's done to make sure that we're anywhere from 150 to 160 degrees for the center of the cheesecake. That way we'll know it's done for sure. Well, it's been over 11 minutes and the air fryer just beeped to let me know that it's done. Let's check out our finished product. There we go, a nice finished hot Basque cheesecake. Let's take a temp. It's about 165 for the temperature, which that's perfect. That's what we need. Let's take this out, take a look at it. There we go. It's beautiful. So there we have it, our finished Basque cheesecake. It's very hot, shouldn't be touching it like that. Use these guys. There we go. Be a little smarter. Well, you can see it's very easy to make. It didn't take much time at all. It was less than 10 minutes as far as gathering the ingredients, throwing everything together. 20 minutes exactly in the air fryer, and now we've got this. So let's let it cool down for an hour, and then we'll take it out of the spring form and do a little taste test at that point. It's been an hour, and I am dying to get into this. So let's unveil the fruits of our labor. Look at that beauty. All done in the air fryer. I'm dying to have a piece. Why'd I get a knife? I don't need a knife. Actually, I got a knife so I can see the center. Bon appetit. Amazing. That is really, really good. It's kind of custardy. That's wonderful. Probably could use to cool down just a little bit more, but I'm too impatient. I don't want to wait. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is such an easy recipe to be able to make. The easiest cheesecake I've ever made. There's less ingredients because you don't have the graham cracker crust. With using the homemade yogurt cheese, it just really made this thing complete. You know, it's completely from scratch. So that it just really gives me a lot of pride as far as being able to make that. So check out my other video where I made homemade yogurt in the Instapot and then made yogurt cheese from that actually went into this cheesecake. Thanks again for watching. Take care.